eventually edited and posted to the website, the grants website, with the rest of the grant documentation and information. So just know it will be recorded. So this is a two-part webinar today in the sense that there are two sets of presentations. So I'm going to share with you the first part, which is the ITQI grant reporting that is specific to the Great Start to Quality website and through text messages, the way we've been talking about. I'm going to show you some of how that's going to look and work. And then Sunya is, I can't remember your title. I'll let you introduce yourself. But for those of you that haven't met me, I'm Laura Fuller. I'm the Senior Project Manager at ECIC, and I'm managing the this particular pilot program right now. On the call with us today, we also have Riva and Amanda. They are both program coordinators on the ITQI team. So if you get emails from the ITQI email, you're probably getting it from Riva, sometimes from Amanda, but usually Riva. If you have billing questions or concerns, you're usually getting answers from Amanda. That's part of how they have their work split out at this point anyway. So they're here to kind of keep an eye on the chat box. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will be taking the questions and updating a reporting FAQ out of the questions that you put in the chat box and that you bring up today. But my part of the webinar is going to be relatively short. Why? Because the reporting on our side for this part is relatively easy. I will let you know that there are going to be, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then after I'm finished with the reporting part, Sunya is going to share the evaluation piece that the public policy associates are doing on behalf of the state and on behalf of ECIC. So Sunya, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself now, that would be fabulous.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sanya Faruqi. I'm a senior research associate with Public Policy Associates. It's a research firm based in Lansing, Michigan.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you being here today. It makes it so much easier because I have had a lot of questions from providers about how are we reaching out to families to do this part? How are we, talking to staff? So that's what she's going to be sharing with you today, some of where we're at with that piece of the evaluation puzzle. Okay, so let's talk about the required reporting. Like I said, it's pretty simple. Again, just to remind you, because this has come up a few times, there are three purposes to this grant. The first purpose is, again, to increase equitable access to high quality infant and toddler childcare in Michigan, to increase pay equity for those in the infant toddler workforce, and to improve the quality quality using specifically an equity lens. So making sure that we are addressing all of the various disparities that children face across the state. I want to just briefly touch on the timeline again. So it's had a few tweaks. So again, the first grant payment, it was supposed to go out December 5th. It ended up going out, Amanda, I want to say it was the 11th, nod, yes. It went out on the 11th instead. You should have all gotten it before the holiday break. And your report for how you spent that money will be due next week on the 10th. I know some of you are worried about that. That's why we're here today, to make you not have to worry about that. So there you have it. I want to point out, again, this is a pilot project. And so some of these dates are going to end up being a little flexible. So for example, you were supposed to be getting your second payment on January 4th. However, because of the holidays and all of the things that happened, we have not yet received the funding for that. And once we receive it, we will be dispersing it. So it will be coming a little later than anticipated. But again, depending upon when ECIC receives the funds transfers, it takes a while for it to process through the system, just like some of you noticed with how long it took Bill to get you your December payments. But as soon as we get it, we will be dispersing it. Again, and then of course that payment or that report will be due in February, and so on. The terms haven't changed, so this is all stuff that you've already seen. So you have agreed to spend this money appropriately, be fiscally responsible, and retain your documentation for 4 years. All programs are potentially subject to monitoring, depending upon what the evaluation team has, not this evaluation team, but the evaluation team at MyLeap, and what they request of us for documentation. We will be requesting it of you. But we'll be looking at all of that here today as well. So let's talk about the report. There are two types of reports that you're going to be doing for me. The first is the standard report. It's due every month on the 10th. So if you just put on the 10th on your calendar every month, it's due the 10th. It will be basically looking at how you spent the funds on your grant, from your grant. Then 3 times you will be texted and emailed a link to a SurveyMonkey, for those of you familiar with SurveyMonkey, that will have some longer questions in it that will more mimic what was on the application. So how many spots do you have? How many employees do you have? How many openings for employees do you have? What are your current wages? Those kinds of questions. That will be in March, in July, and in October. We're going back and forth still between July and June. So this first one, we're going to be talking about the essay question, if you will. I don't want to call it that, but we're going to request for you to share with us some of the impacts that right now we decided. I believe the current topic that we're deciding on is the impact that the funding cliff, the cut of ARPA funds to subsidy programs, how that has impacted the families in your care. And we're going to be having some specific questions around that for you to fill out. So, just have it on your mind if you're talking to parents. What are the impacts that this has had when the ARPA funding ran out at the end of the COVID pandemic funding process, and co-pays are going back up and subsidy funds were cut. What is the impact that's having on your program and on the families in your program? So it's a couple months out, but just to have it kind of on your radar, that's going to be the first set of questions that we're going to be asking you in March. The other part of what you'll be asked to do every month is update your enrollment. So here's why. A lot of people say, oh, we need to have more referrals. We need a better referral process. Yes, we completely agree we need a better referral process. But in order for us to make those connections, we have to have an accurate count of where slots and seats are available for kids. And just to give you a sense of how out of date the data that we currently have is, last year, out of the approximately 8,000 licensed providers in the state of Michigan, 200 logged in and updated their enrollment numbers. 200 out of 8,000. So when we say, where are their seats available? We don't know. So to fix that, or at least to start to fix that, you guys get to be our test subjects on doing that through text messages. So we're going to be texting you on the first Friday of each month. It's going to be late this month because of, again, holidays. We're in the process of testing the text function right now. We selected 6 providers, and they're getting texted today so that we can get feedback from them of, was it clear? Was it easy? Did they have any problems, so that we can make sure that it actually loads correctly into the Great Start to Quality website for them. Once we verify that, then we'll be pushing out a text message to all of you. So here is what that will look like. You will get a hello, this is, okay, obviously these are not my questions. These are copied from the state of Virginia. Just so you know, this is just the template. This was the original template. So you'll get an intro. Hi, this is, the ECIC with your enrollment updates, or I don't know what it says right now, but is your program currently open? Yes, no, right? And you'll just literally text back, yes, no. Do you have openings available? Yes or no, right? How many openings? These are not the exact questions that you're going to see, but you can see how it's literally just going to be a text conversation. And after you do that, it's going to auto-populate into the Great Start to Quality website. So you will not have to log in. You won't have to do any of that. You'll just have to respond to a text message. So hopefully that will allow us to have accurate information about where seats are available for all of you in this pilot program. And if we see that it's working well for you, then we're going to start texting all 8,000 licensed providers in the state of Michigan. To get a sense of what the questions are going to be for the report that you're going to get texted. This is for next week. The next screenshot makes them easier to read, but you will see if you log in, you will see that all 10 months of the grant are on the same report. Oops, I didn't mean to do that yet. All 10 months of the grant are on the same report. So if you don't want to do it via text message, or if you have multiple sites and it's easier for you, if you're an admin at KinderCare or what have you, and it's easier for you to just log in and do them, it has yes or no drop-down boxes, and you can log in and do them and just hit update report each month. But if you do it via text message, it will auto-populate the report for you. You won't have to log into Work Life Systems, to Great Start to do that. The questions that you're going to be asked each month. Did you increase staff compensation? Yes or no? If you say yes, it's going to ask you if you did bonuses, wages, or both. What else did you spend the money on? It has the 4 allowable categories, so staff benefits. I want to remind you that staff benefits here can be fringe, can be your cost as employers, for payroll tax, can be health insurance copay for the, you're part of the health insurance deductible, whatever the words are that I'm missing today. Things like that. It can be professional development, also would go under benefits. If you pay for your staff's childcare, that can go under benefits. All of those anything that you do to support your staff benefits. Minor improvements. I've had a couple people already say that they've bought a portable sink so that they can open a new toddler room, things like that. Those would be minor improvements. If you are choosing to pay the copays for your subsidy families, right? That's a yes or no. And then infant toddler materials. So if you, purchase curricula, or you got a area rug for tummy time or things like that, yes or no. And then last, did you enroll any new infants or toddlers from subsidy families? Yes or no. If you say yes, it'll come back with how many: 1 for 1, 2 for 2, 3 for 3 or more. That is the extent of what I'm asking you to do each month for reporting. So deep breath, big sigh. I've had a lot of people really worried about it. I'm more worried about making sure that the texting works on the back end than I am about you guys doing this report, okay? So the other thing to note, if you were part of the stabilization grants, you may remember that the reports were not editable at all by any of us, including me. That is not the case for these. So as you saw on the previous slide, it's just you update the report each month. So if you go back and you're like, oh, I'm readjusting some money and we're going to use some of this money to do copays after all, you can go in and change it. So keep it accurate, keep it easy. We're making it as easy as we can. So this is the monthly report. Again, 2 ways to report. You can log into your GSQ profile, or you can do it via text. Hopefully you'll get that text message a week from today. That's my goal. This, however, is important. So on your application, we asked you what cell phone number you wanted us to use to text you at. And Riva, you can unmute yourself and tell me the exact number, but it was something like 97 out of 189. Did I remember that?
You are remembering right on.
I mean, I'm having my moments.
Yeah.
97 out of 189 of you had discrepancies between what was in your GSQ profile as an SMS number for text messages and in your application. So Riva, being the amazing detail person that she is, went through and made an adjustment in your Work Life Systems profile, because that's where the text, the number that's in your profile is what will get the text messages. So we went through and we updated your profiles to match your applications. And she texted you and said, if this isn't the number you wanted at, let me know. But you can go in and change it yourself. To do that, you log into your GSQ profile, you go to update data, and then just put in the cell phone number, check, and then there's a save box over to the side. So if you want to change the number at any point over the year, you get a new number, you change staff and you want them to use their number, you can do it, we can do it, just let us know. But we do need to make sure we have an accurate cell phone number to text you at. And that is where you do that. Do remember you are required to maintain records for 4 years for how you spend the money. You can load all of your receipts. You do not have to unless we request them from you. We are not requiring that of everyone at this point, but do maintain the records just in case. And if you're like me and you lose things, go ahead and load them if you want. You're welcome to do that. It's there. The option is there. That said, there are a few things we do need you to load. So the first is if you said on your application that you have had care of children with special needs, and remember again, special needs, we're defining by the legal terms, which for this age group means they're on an IFSP or they are participating in early on. We need you to load the documentation of that for at least one child in your care dated for this school year by next Wednesday. So please do not put that off. That documentation is required. If you indicated that you're participating in GSRP, we've already done the verification of that. You do not have to do anything for GSRP verification. And you do not have to do anything for subsidy verification. We will be we'll be getting a new list of subsidy numbers from MyLeap in March, and we will be re-verifying things in March. So you do not need to worry about verifying your new enrollments or anything like that. We will be taking care of all of that from our side. The only thing that you need to make sure is up is an IFSP or an early, the early on documentation that the child is receiving services, that you have a child receiving services. The one thing I want to really stress, this is really, really critical. I recognize that iBilling has been up and down a little over the holidays while they were doing some back end work on it. That said, when we redo the verification in March, we're going to be looking at your January and February billing. So make sure that you do not postpone getting your billing done by the end of February. Put a reminder on your calendar to get it done, because theoretically what we've requested, whether or not we get the data share of the exact day we requested or not is, it is what it is. But we have requested that we get a data pull from MyLeap on March 15th that will include your billing for January and February. So if it's not done, it's going to affect your subsidy numbers, which is going to affect whether or not you're showing enrollment. And we want to make sure that your enrollment shows accurately. And when I say enrollment, I mean your subsidy enrollment shows accurately. So please, 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 if there's one thing you take away from this today, it's that yes, you can technically back bill for 3 months for subsidy. If you're in this pilot, don't. Just don't, right? Because otherwise it's going to come up as, what I really do not want is to have providers, when I get the subsidy list on the 15th of March, have providers in this program that shows 0 subsidy, right? And then have to figure out what's going on. So please, please save us all that problem of trying to then justify and go back and say, well, they don't have any subsidy, so we can't keep them in the program. We don't want to go there. So please, please, please keep your subsidy billing up to date. For the documentation for quarterly reports, there are going to be 2 things that I'm going to request. Actually, one thing that I'm going to request documentation from you from the quarterly reports. So there are 2 potential bonuses being triggered by those quarterly long form reports that will be in SurveyMonkey. The first is our hope. This is all pending having the funding available to do it. But our hope is if the funding is available, if you have a staff member who receives their CDA or an associate's degree in an early child care field or a bachelor's or, a master's in, childhood psychology, whatever, any of those kinds of things. If you load a document, the documentation, the certificate, the transcript, something that shows that they completed that credential, our goal is to pay a bonus to them, to pay a bonus to you, to pay to them. So if you have staff that gain a credential, please also request a copy. I'm sure you're doing it anyway, right, for you. So load a copy of the certificate so we can theoretically, money available, give a bonus. Similarly, if your GSQ quality level changes, we're asking you, it's a yes or no question, we will internally verify it. You do not have to load any documentation for it. But again, if your GSQ quality level goes up, we are hoping to pay a bonus. So do mark, because the only way, it's not an automatic trigger for us to see what your new quality level is. So you will have to say yes or no. And one of the follow-up questions to that also will be around, are you in the re-rating process? And if you are, then, are there things that we can do to help you with that process? So those will be the two questions that will potentially trigger bonus payments. So do please make sure that you are careful when those come. I have already scheduled webinars for March 6th before that longer form report is going to go out to you via text. So we will talk through the specific questions and all of that then. This is just a heads up now. If you have somebody complete their CDA, go ahead and get a copy of that certificate and load it up into the document so that we can just, it'll be smooth sailing come March. Submitting documentation for this, exactly the same as the stabilization grants if you participated in those. You'll go to your grants tab, then you'll click on the approved grant link, and then the documentation tab. And it's like every other file upload on the internet where you put in the type, you put in the category. For this, there are two different types of categories. So there's documentation as a category and receipt as a category. I'm sorry, that's the type. So if you put documentation, then it will request you to say, is this an IFSP or a, early on? Is this a certificate? Is this those kinds of things? And then if you choose receipt, then it will, then I think it just asks you like the amount at that point. So, all right, that's it for our reporting. As easy as we could make it. I'm going to ask you to hold questions and let Sunya give her piece, and then we'll just take all of the questions at the same time, if that works for you, Sunya. Yes?
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, let me start sharing my screen. You think after this I would get used to it, but I always have trouble finding out which screen to share. So I end up sharing my whole screen, so it makes it easier.
And
so
it doesn't help that we go back between Zoom and Teams all the time.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So, like Laura was saying, she outlined the goals of the pilot, and what we will be doing working with EIC is just evaluating and really assessing whether the goals of the pilot were achieved or not. And we will also be looking at how providers and families benefit from the pilot, and then thinking long term, because this is a pilot, thinking what are like the lessons learned that we could take away and then apply it long term. So that's really pretty much the overall goal of the evaluation. And so the activities, I know Laura mentioned earlier that there've been questions about this. So we also want to be not burdensome at all. We want to build off of existing data collections that's happening. So we will be using the monthly reporting to answer some of our research questions. So that will help us answer how the grant is being used. What are the different ways it's being used? You saw earlier, like the different options. We're going to just be using that, analyzing that, and assessing whether the pilot goals are being achieved. Then we're also going to be using the quarterly report to also get like a deeper dive into like how you're spending the grant and like maybe more dollar amounts. There will be some providers that will be asked additional questions, such as about attendance of children. So we'll be asking, how many days were you open in February? How many kids attended? But these are all going to be randomly selected providers that will answer these questions. And then we'll also have a staff survey where the randomly selected providers, their staff will be asked about, how heard from your provider, we heard that, the grant was used for professional development. Now we actually want to know a little bit more and take a deeper dive and understand like what kind of types of professional development did you use? Did you attend the, certification, or are you attending classes? And then also ask about like the actual amount, like the dollar amount of your salary increase. So that's what like the staff survey, we'll just take a deeper dive and get more information about that. But we will, our goal is to use existing platforms that EIC is using and just build upon those. And so not add burden, add additional burden to providers. Also, we'll be using other materials EIC has already created. So like the application you guys filled out, we're using that as a data source as well to get like a baseline, better understanding of the general universe of providers out there. So that are some of the data sources that we'll be using. I didn't talk about like the actual, I know we're using platforms, like I said, but the actual like process, we're still finalizing because we're also still collecting information. Like, we're still tweaking like what questions that are going to go into the long form and the quarterly report, then the monthly. So we're still working on that. And so that's why I don't have like the actual process. Like, this is step 1, this is step 2. I don't have that yet, but we hope that it doesn't cause like issues or for providers. So I'm going to turn it back to Laura, and if anybody has questions.
Yeah, I'm open for questions now. So I know we've had the office hours. I've had a lot of people drop in and ask questions then. But if you have questions specifically about what we shared today, please go ahead and ask them now. And I'm sure other people have the same questions. Usually that's the case. So you are welcome. Oh, you know what? I might have to set it so you can unmute yourselves, right? Maybe not. Can't remember when I did that. Participants. Okay, you should now be able to unmute yourself if you have questions. So go ahead and ask questions if you have any. I will pull up the chat so I can see what comes in there.
We just got a question in the chat wondering what if the reporting is not done on time?
So you will get a couple of notices. We will be pulling a report on the 12th. Again, this month is a little weird because we're still in the building and testing process. We'll be pulling a report on the 12th, and these dates are not going to change any month. So the 10th, the report is due. On the 12th of the month, we'll pull a report, unless it's the weekend, in which case it'll be a Monday. Sorry, my dog is going crazy. I hope you guys can't hear her. We'll pull a report on the 12th, and we'll send an email reminder and probably a text message once we figure out how to do that to everyone who has not submitted their report on the 12th. We'll then follow that up with another check, if you will, on the 16th, with a final reminder on the 16th. If it's not done by the 22nd, you will not get paid the following month. So we have to have, it's a simple report. You can do it by text, but it has to be done by the 22nd in order for us to cut your next month's payment. So that's what happens. To clarify for public policy analysts, direct serving of families is not being done. All data is being collected through staff.
Yes, and so more through providers. So providers self-report responses about families and children, not directly with families.
But directly with staff.
Yes, staff and providers.
Directly contacting staff, but not directly contacting families. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. What happens if IFSPs are not uploaded? If you do not upload an IFSP dated for this school year by the 10th, we will be removing that portion of we'll be removing that bonus from your per slot award amount. And we will not be going back and revisiting it. So if you then upload one later and let us know, we will add it back into your per slot award amount going forward, but we will not be reimbursing back for previous months when it wasn't loaded. The recording will be up on the website. So it's greatstarttoquality.org/grants. It probably will not be up until early next week though, because we have 2 of these and our comms team is going to make it pretty. So, yes, Tiffany, anything that gets sent in the text message I don't know what you mean by with the state, but it will change things. I think you're asking about that specific question. As I said, those were not my questions. That was just an example of what the text conversation is going to look like. I don't know if that's actually being asked. I think those might be from the beginning of the pandemic in Virginia when they were asking whether or not your program was open. I don't think that's one of the questions that is being asked. I haven't actually seen the enrollment questions for us. I actually have a meeting at 3 o'clock to look at those. So I'll have better answers at 3, but that won't help you. Yeah. Fawn has not yet received the funds from December. Fawn, so there's two things there. First, send an email with your license number, please, to the ITQI grants email so that we can check and make sure that you were not one that we had problems connecting account with. If you haven't spent the funds, there's no requirement that the funds be spent during the month. So if you haven't spent the funds, then your answer is simply no. You haven't increased wages. No, you haven't spent it on any of those categories. That's fine. And theoretically, by February, you will have 2 months worth of funds to spend in those allowable expenses. But let's make sure that we can have somebody check your license and see when it got sent from Bill and what we can do from there. We have to upload state billing. No, you do not have to upload anything about your billing to the state, to the GSQ site. We will be getting that information directly from MyLeap, so we will not need any of that. You can use pay stubs for proof of spending, but again, Tracy, we are not requiring it at this time. Just hold on to them or make sure you can reprint them. It should an auditor from the feds or the state come and ask us for copies of your receipts. If a child, no, I'm sorry, Natasha, it is not sufficient to just have a pediatrician's note. They actually have to be enrolled in an IFSP or in early on. So they have to, the legal definition is that they are part of one of those programs. For this grant, you have to have the documentation for those two programs. Okay. Melanie sent an email before Christmas. We are pretty up to date. If you sent it directly to me, it could be very well far behind because we were closed for 2 weeks almost. I was out for 2 weeks and I'm playing catch up. So if you sent it directly to me, it probably hasn't gotten a response. If you sent it to the ITQI grants email, Riva has gotten that emptied. So depends on where you sent it. If you sent me something, send it again to the ITQI grants email and Riva can double check it. What type of specific information do you suggest we inform parents and staff about this pilot? Sonia, I think that's more of a you question.
Yeah, I think you could just let them know that we will be, for staff specifically, because we will not be asking parents for information. We're not going to be contacting parents. But you could tell staff that they will get an email either through us or with EIC that we would like them to complete a survey, provide some information about how, what kind of professional development they're doing, how, what their salary is, has there been changes in their salary? So those are going to be the realm of the questions we're going to be asking. And there also will be an incentive. Staff that participate, there's going to be 2 surveys, one around March were the quarterly, and then another one around June. So there'll be 2 surveys that we're hoping that the same staff take both surveys. There will be an incentive given to them for participating and for their time. So I think those just general could provide that information. It should be hopefully enough. And also they can always directly contact us or ECIC if they have further questions.
Last time we talked, we were still going back and forth whether it was going to be SurveyMonkey or a text survey. Has that been decided on your end? Do you know?
No, we haven't decided that, but I think we're leaning more toward SurveyMonkey, so then it's consistent with the platform that providers are using, and so okay. I think that stay consistent.
Okay, great. Can I use the funds to pay for director or administration payroll? You can, to the percentage that they direct or administer the IT program. So if you have a director who if you've got 8 classrooms at their site and 4 of them are infant toddler and all 4 of them have children, receiving subsidy in them, then you could pay half of their administration salary. Again, just try to keep it. Again, I'm not asking for payroll at this point, but should we ask for it? I would expect to see it be, somewhat appropriate to the amount of time that, just like with any grant in the grant world where you have to account for time, and how much time and effort you are spending on the grant, I would expect it to be similar. That the amount of time that you're charging to the grant for a director or administrator was equivalent to the amount of time they were spending on the program, or I won't even say on the program, but overseeing the part of the program that the grant is, towards overseeing. So, yeah. Yes, Tracy, you could just put in the amount you spent on payroll and save the pay stubs for auditing. That's fine. You can send that. LaShawn says, I have 3 children awaiting evaluations. Can I send that as proof? Go ahead. What I'm going to ask you to do is send that to the ITQI grants email, and Riva can make a note of it that you're awaiting that. And then when you have it, we can go back and re-verify it. And then we don't have to like change formula in the meantime. I'm willing to wait on that. For like, you can give it a month or 2, by March. If it's, we'd expect it at March at the latest, I would think. Nicole, we can talk about why the money might be different. We'll talk later. Staff payroll is not used for this grant, only bonuses and raises, correct? Abir, you can use this as long as it is, as long as it is staff that are caring for infants and toddlers on subsidy, you can use this grant for 100% of your staff expenses for those in those classrooms. So it's not just bonuses and raises. If you're currently paying them, I'm going to use round numbers. Say you're currently paying them $15 an hour and you want to give them a bonus of $2 an hour, all $17 an hour, and all of the fringe benefit for that staff can come out of this grant. They just have to be in an infant or toddler classroom caring for at least 1 child on subsidy. That's all the requirement is for this. Okay, that's the end of what I have in here for questions. Any more we'll be happy to take. Oh, here's one. I have a copy of a child I care for who receives services from early on. I'm going to upload the document under category special needs. Now it shows the receipt date. I don't need to do anything. Yep, that's all you need to do. And that's fine. That's as long as the credentials. So I want to be clear. The diplomas are for staff who receive a new credential during the grant period. So if you have a staff or yourself, if somebody in your employment structure receives a CDA or an associate's degree between December 1st and September 30th, that's what you need to upload. So if you have your bachelor's degree from 5 years ago and you're the site director, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, this is an incentive to improve the quality in your program. So if you have a staff complete a new credential during the grant period, that's what I want you to upload. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Any other questions? I hope you're as excited about the ability to just do a text report as I am. I think that's going to make everyone's lives a lot easier. I will tell you, for those of you that have more than one site, if you have more than one site, the first question, I believe what I was told, is that it will ask you which site you're responding for. So if you have, let's say you have 3 license numbers and you attach the same cell phone number to all 3 of them, the first question, my understanding is the first question is, which site is this in reference to. So it should be part of that. So you should, even if you have like more than one site, you should be able to still do it all via text. We aren't reaching out to parents. Employees, we will be gathering employee information from you and verifying it with my registry. And we will be reaching out to employees that way. We'll let you know before that happens. So you will certainly receive communication from us before. And yes, Christopher, you will be required to provide contact information if your site is randomly selected for the deeper evaluation. That is part of the agreement, being part of this pilot process.
Can I also add in, Laura, if you haven't updated your registry, please do so, because that's what we will be using to get information about number of staff at each of the sites. And then from there, we will, then be able to figure out, determine which of the staff to randomly select to take the survey. So if you haven't, please update it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Lisa, that is my good news, what I'm sharing. You will be able to do it all from a text message. In fact, when the time, right, when the time comes to do the long form report, I'm going to text you the link for that too. So, and one of the reasons that I selected SurveyMonkey is it's relatively mobile friendly. So for those of you that want to answer the questions from your phone, you'll be able to do that. Yeah. And you will have, I will make sure, so I will say with that, and again, we're going to do we'll have another meeting before then, but I will say you won't be able to edit those. So I am going to make sure that we send out at least a link that has, these are all of the questions we're going to ask you. So if you do need to like crunch numbers ahead of time for like, what is my average hourly wage for, toddler assistant staff, you'll know ahead of time. I will tell you though that the number crunching is going to be the same as the number crunching that was on the application. Those are the same questions. So what is the starting wage? What is the hourly wage or average wage for the different positions? So if you can figure that out ahead of time, the rest of it isn't numbers. The rest of it's mostly yes or no. So, okay. How much should we pay for bonuses? Oh, that is such a great question. When will we be receiving the wage report? See, you guys are on the same page. I'm going to answer both questions at the same time. I literally just this week got some more background information on the wage study, and we have requested that they build and put on the website a wage calculator that will be the same as, not the same as, but the same kind of structure as the subsidy, like, am I eligible for subsidy calculator? What should my wage be calculator? So it will be, it will ask, what is the role? How many years of experience? Is there a degree or a certificate involved? And what is the region? And I'm sure there are other questions that go into it, but I don't know what they are off the top of my head because, again, this is not my area of expertise. But it is being built. There will be a link on the website, and as soon as it's up, I will share it with you, and you will be able, and anyone else will be able to put in, that information. I have a bachelor's degree and 6 years of experience, and I live in Detroit. What is the prevailing wage? What should I be paying? And what should my wage be? And that will be up on the website. As soon as I have it, I will send it out. We have 189 providers in this pilot program right now. Yeah. So we're getting to know you individually as it goes. So, all right. All right. Well, I appreciate all of your time. I'm going to let you reclaim some of your time before you get back to the kids waking up from nap time. And this recording will be posted. Once it is, we'll send something out to the Constant Contact email list. And if you have questions, do not email me directly. Email the ITQI grant email. You will get a much faster response. And you will get an even faster response if you make sure you include your license number in the email. Because otherwise we'll have to email you back and ask for your license number. The other thing I want to point out is that if you, like me, prefer texting to other forms of communication, when you get an email from us, in the signature line, it says direct dial. That direct dial takes text messages. So if you actually want to reach one of us more quickly, you can text us. That is by far the best way to reach us. All of us are texters by default. So if you're trying to reach one of us, if you want to reach out to us and you want us to do it via a text message, if that's easier for you, it's easier for us too. Okay, anything else? All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Sonia, I really appreciate you spending your time with us today.